Okay, I want you to picture ancient Egypt. Just for a second. What's the first thing that pops into your head?
Oh, it's always the pyramids or King Tut's mask.
It's the pyramids, right? The big physical stuff, the gold, the temples, all those hieroglyphs.
Exactly. It's always the tangible things. We look at the stone and we think, wow, they were obsessed with death. Or maybe, how did they move those giant rocks?
Right. It's all about the hardware. But, digging into the research for this deep dive, it feels like we're just looking at the computer case and completely ignoring the software that made it all run.
That is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the material we're covering today argues that Egypt's greatest invention, its true legacy, wasn't architectural at all.
So if the pyramids were just the hardware, what was the operating system?
The sources suggest their greatest contribution to humanity was actually a concept, the concept of justice.
The justice.
Or as they called it, Maat. And I have to stop you right there because it's not justice in our modern sense, with courtrooms and speeding tickets.
Right.
This was a cosmic principle. The whole thesis we're unpacking today is that the Egyptians built their entire civilization to mirror the cosmos. They believed if their society didn't reflect the order of the stars, it would just collapse.
Which is a pretty high-stakes way to run a country. Align with the stars or everyone dies.
Pretty much.
And we're going to get into exactly how they did that. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to talk about something called sacred geography, which is way cooler than it sounds, and we'll decode the difference between what they saw as true order and chaos.
We'll also look at this really fascinating comparison the texts make between what they call a true pyramid and a false pyramid as models for society.
And I have to warn you, that description of the false pyramid feels, well, uncomfortably relevant today.
It really does.
And we'll wrap up with some ancient warnings about social collapse that honestly sound like they could have been written yesterday. So let's start with the map. The sources distinguish between the Egypt on, say, Google Maps and sacred Egypt. What's the difference there?
It really comes down to orientation. The texts describe two kinds of geography. First, there's utilitarian geography. That's how we navigate today. You use a GPS, you look for a street sign, it's purely functional, right? It's just about getting from point A to point B.
Right, it's logistics. I need to find the grocery store. I don't need a spiritual experience to find a gallon of milk.
Exactly. But the Egyptians, they lived in sacred geography. For them, navigating was about orienting yourself in relation to the cosmos, the gods, the cycles of time. They operated on that principle of as above.
So below. I've heard that phrase a million times, but what did it actually mean for, like, an Egyptian city planner?
It meant that nothing was placed randomly. Egyptian cities weren't just, plopped down where the fishing was good. They were positioned to correspond with certain stars and constellations.
So they were trying to anchor the sky to the earth.
That's a great way to put it. So when they looked at the Nile, they didn't just see a source of water.
What did they see?
They saw the earthly reflection of the celestial Nile.
Which is what, exactly?
The Milky Way. They believed the river of stars in the sky and the river of water on the ground were mirrors. So navigating the Nile wasn't just travel. It was a journey through a star map made real.
That is wild. It's like living inside a giant planetarium.
And it gets even more specific. Take the source of the Nile. Modern geography tells us it comes from Lake Victoria, right?
Right, we know the hydrology.
But the Egyptians identified the mythical origin at the island of Bija near Aswan.
Why there?
Because of the stars. Again, they believed the Sigh of Osiris, which is what we know as the Big Dipper or Ursa Major, was symbolically buried there.
The Big Dipper.
Yep. And those stars are what we call imperishable stars. They never set below the horizon in the northern sky.
So they represent eternity.
Exactly. So if the river flows from the resting place of eternal stars, then the water itself is charged with the energy of resurrection. It's not just H2O, it's liquid eternity.
Wow. It totally changes how you interact with your environment, doesn't it? If you think the water is holy, you treat it differently than if it's just a utility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It demands respect. And this need for cosmic alignment applied to their buildings, too. The sources describe a ritual called the extension of the rope.
This sounded really intricate. It's not just a groundbreaking ceremony with a golden shovel.
Not at all. It involved the pharaoh and the goddess Seshat. Now, Seshat is a figure we don't hear about a lot, but she's crucial here. She's the goddess of mathematics, harmony, proportions.
Sort of the patron saint of architects.
In a way, yes. And she's often shown with this symbol over her head that looks like a 7-petaled flower.
Does the number 7 mean something?
It does. The texts explain that the petals represent the 6 directions of space.
Okay, let me count. North, south, east, west. That's 4. Up and down. That's 6. What's the 7th direction?
That's the key. The seventh direction is the center, or more specifically, the opening of the sky. It represents the inward, upward connection to the sacred.
So when they laid the foundation for a temple, they were literally pinning the building to the divine.
They were establishing a connection to that seventh direction.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. That is such a cool concept, the 7th direction being internal, and that leads us right into the core of their whole philosophy, Maat. You said it translates to justice, but it seems like it's much bigger than that.
It's massive, and this is where we have to shift our thinking.
Sure.
We see justice as reactive, right? Someone does something bad, and justice is the punishment.
Sure.
But for them, Maat was universal order, truth, harmony. It was the operating system of the entire universe.
The sources use a medical analogy for this that I found really helpful.
Yes, the homeostasis analogy. Think about your body. To survive, it has to maintain a very specific balance. Your temperature has to be around 37 degrees Celsius. Your blood pH has to be just right.
If that balance is off, you get sick, you die.
Exactly. That state of balance is homeostasis. Maat is homeostasis for society, for the cosmos. It's the health of the collective. When that balance is lost, you don't just have crime. You have cosmic illness.
Yeah.
You have disorder.
And the opposite of Maat isn't just injustice, it's a specific concept, isfet.
Right. Isfet is chaos. It's the breakdown of that cosmic immune system. And they had this very vivid imagery for it, using 2 different types of snakes.
This is interesting because in the West, a snake is usually just the bad guy. But they had a good one and a bad one.
They did. Representing Isfet, you have Apep. This is the crawling reptilian snake. It's heavy, it drags on the ground, and it represents the self-feeding cycle of chaos and evil.
And the other one?
The other is the Arraius. That's the upright cobra you see on the pharaoh's forehead.
Oh, right, sticking out of the headdress.
Notice its posture. It's upright, alert. It represents awakened consciousness, vigilance. It's the power used to protect Maat. The lesson is that the energy itself, the serpent power, isn't evil. It depends on whether it's crawling in the mud or raised up in awareness.
That's a powerful, it's all about posture and intent. Now, the sources also connect this ideal of harmony to 4 archetypes that guide humanity.
Yes, principles that later philosophers like Plato would pick up on, but the sources trace them back to Egypt. They are truth, goodness, beauty, and justice.
And the idea is that God isn't some guy with a beard on a cloud.
Exactly. God is the mysterious origin of these 4 principles. So when you pursue beauty and art, or stand up for justice in your community, you are, in a sense, connecting with the divine. You are acting in Maat.
Okay, let's unpack how this philosophy actually looked on the ground. Because the sources draw this incredible comparison between true pyramids and false pyramids to explain their social structure.
This is one of the most compelling insights in the material. We see the pyramids as tombs, but they were also symbols of social architecture.
So walk us through the true pyramid. What makes it true?
Visualize a cross-section of a sound pyramid. You have these inner stone pillars. Crucially, they don't stand straight up. They incline inward toward the center. They lean on each other.
They're supporting each other.
Yes. And structurally, this means the central pillar, the highest point representing the pharaoh, actually bears the most weight. It's a collaborative pyramid where the leader serves the whole. The higher you are, the more responsibility you carry.
Which sounds great, but then there's the false pyramid.
The false pyramid is built differently. Instead of leaning pillars, you just have stones stacked in horizontal rows, layer on layer.
Like a wedding cake made of bricks?
Sort of. But think about the weight. In this model, the top stones are just dead weight, crushing the stones below. The bottom layer gets absolutely pulverized by everything above it.
Oof, that's a vivid metaphor.
Yeah.
So in the false pyramid, the powerful are literally standing on the heads of the weak.
Exactly. And the sources point out that historically, these false pyramids collapsed quickly. They couldn't survive. The true pyramids, the collaborative ones, are the ones still standing thousands of years later.
And the sources don't shy away from making a modern comparison here.
Not at all. It's a harsh critique, but the text argues that modern society, specifically mentioning capitalism, often resembles the false pyramid. Power and weight crush those at the bottom. We have incredible technology rockets, smartphones, but we lack that internal geometry of Maat.
That hits hard. The idea that technology isn't the same as civilization. You can have the fastest internet in the world and still live in a barbaric social structure.
That's the core argument. The Great Revolution of Egypt wasn't moving big stones. It was designing a social philosophy that balanced the individual and the collective.
But that balance starts with the individual, doesn't it? The sources move from the society down to the person, which brings us to one of the most famous images from Egypt, the weighing of the heart.
The judgment scene, yep, we've all seen it.
Hmm.
The deceased stands before the gods, and their heart is placed on a scale opposite the feather of Maat, the feather of truth.
And I think most people see this as like a Christian judgment day. Did I sin? Am I going to hell? But the sources say that's not quite it.
It's significantly different. The goal isn't forgiveness. You don't ask for mercy. The goal is consistency. The heart is your conscience. The feather is objective truth. The question is, does your conscience match the truth? Is it in balance?
It's like an engineering check. Is the part within tolerance?
Exactly. And if it balances, you earn a specific title. You become Maat,
Maat, which means true of voice.
yes, or justified. But it means you are integrated. It describes a person whose thoughts, feelings, and actions are all of one piece.
Contrast that with how we usually operate.
Well, think about the disintegrated human. That's most of us, most of the time. We think one thing, I should be healthy. We feel another, I really want that cake. And we do a third thing, eat the cake.
We're just a mess of contradictions inside a skin suit.
Laughs, essentially. The Egyptians saw that internal conflict as a form of slavery. You're not free if your actions betray your beliefs. The Maat, the integrated human, has aligned their four parts: mental, emotional, vital, and physical. They act as one.
And that alignment creates stability.
Which brings us to the Djed pillar.
Oh.
That symbol you see everywhere looks like a column with 4 bars at the top.
Right.
It represents the backbone of Osiris. It symbolizes that stability. When you're integrated, you have a backbone. You can stand upright against chaos.
There's one more symbol the sources mention here, the sarcophagus. They call it a trap.
Yeah, this gets a bit metaphysical. The sarcophagus isn't just a box. It represents the trap of space-time, the 3 dimensions of space plus time. The awakened soul, the one who is Maat, is trying to transcend that box.
So life was a training ground for this integration. You had to build that inner core while you were alive.
Exactly. But here's the scary part. What happens when a society stops producing these integrated people? When the false pyramid takes over?
Well, according to the text, you get the admonitions of Ipure. This is a heavy section of the material.
It is. Ipure was a sage who lived during the first intermediate period, a time when Egypt fell into absolute chaos. His text is a lament, describing what it looks like when Maat abandons a civilization.
The descriptions are pretty terrifying and honestly eerily familiar.
They are. He talks about the inversion of the social order. He says things like, the poor have become rich and those unable to make their own sandals are now wealthy.
Now wait, is he just being a snob?
The sources clarify this. It's not about social mobility. It's about the unprepared seizing power without earning it. It's about looting wealth without value. He also says, a man sees his son as an enemy, the breakdown of the family.
That part stood out to me. The loss of respect between generations. When the father can't teach the son, the culture dies.
It creates a vacuum. And Ipure warns that when a society loses its own values, its own Maat, foreigners become Egyptians everywhere.
We need to be careful with that word foreigner, though. The text is specific.
Very. In this context, a foreigner isn't about ethnicity or where you were born. A foreigner is anyone, even someone born in Egypt, who refuses to integrate into the values of order and harmony. They are foreign to justice. They are agents of Isfet.
So the warning is that societies, just like people, can die.
Yes. If they can't renew themselves, they collapse. Ipure describes violence, pestilence, total rot.
But the Egyptians didn't just leave us with a doom and gloom. They had an antidote, these wisdom texts, or sabbat.
It's surprisingly simple. The antidote isn't a new technology or a better weapon. It's character. The wisdom texts of Tehotep emphasize humility. Listen more than you speak. They emphasize planning for the long term, self-control.
It all comes back to that internal integration. You can't have a stable society if the people in it are unstable.
Precisely. Stability starts in the heart. If you want Maat in the kingdom, you need Maat in the citizen.
So bringing this all together, the sources argue that the real revolution of Egypt wasn't building the Great Pyramid of Giza.
No. The real revolution was social and philosophical. It was the attempt to build a society anchored in conscience, in that inner core.
It's a challenge to us, really. We look at their ruins and think they're dead, but their questions are very much alive. We're still trying to figure out how to build a true pyramid society.
And we're still trying to become true of voice.
Before we wrap up, there's one final concept from the sources that just blew my mind. The idea of the double truth, or the two hearts.
Yes. This is something to really sit with. The Egyptians believed we have two hearts, the terrestrial heart and the celestial heart.
Okay, what's the difference?
The terrestrial heart is the one that manages daily survival. It worries about the rent, what's for dinner, petty arguments. It lives in small-time hours and days. And, importantly, it dies when you die.
And the celestial heart.
The celestial heart lives in the great time, eternity. It connects to those archetypes. Truth, beauty, justice. It's the part of you that yearns for something real. And the provocative thought the sources leave us with is this. Most of us spend our entire lives listening only to the terrestrial heart. We feed the temporary and starve the eternal.
So the question is, which heart are you listening to right now? And is your life built like a true pyramid? Or are you just stacking stones until they crush you?
That is the question of Maat.
Heavy stuff, but fascinating. Thanks for taking this deep dive into the soul of ancient Egypt with us.
My pleasure.
And to our listener, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.